Hello everybody, this is Paco Art, and today we're going to do character blocking in Zbrush. Now, this is a means to essentially breaking out in different departments. It's not just doing a blockout per se, but it's also preparing Zbrush and also talking a little bit about anatomy proportions and also the workflow on how to combine, say, different shapes using Dynamesh and then adjusting those shapes using a remesher. So first we're going to do it, so feel free to skip ahead if you don't want to see this glossary of contents. But the first thing we're going to talk about is scale between Zbrush and Maya and how it differentiates. And actually, if you think about it, like when you start with a cube in Maya, it's 2 centimeters as well. And when you start with a ball in Zbrush, it's 2 centimeters as well. So it's actually pretty similar when it comes to dimensions, but how can we set it up to make sure that if we got like a regular human being that is exactly 100 centimeters tall per se, which is like the norm, how to make sure that it's got the same size and that Zbrush works correctly when you go back and forward between the two. Next, we're going to talk a little bit on proportions. So proportions, what do I mean? Proportions is essentially, portions is essentially this kind of thing where we're going to do a bit of math on where things usually do sit. So we're going to go to this anatomy for sculptors and we are going to analyze a little bit, okay, so where things usually sit in given character or personality with a regular human being. If you're doing a teenager or a child or anything like that, the proportions change again, right? After that we do the proportions, we're going to talk on how to set up orthographics within Zbrush. So we're going to go inside of Zbrush, and then we're going to set up orthographics. Then we're going to do just the basics of, setting up. We're going to do some basic shapes. So we're just going to start with the rib cage, spine, and then the hips. And then after that, we'll see how we go with those. I think it's going to be enough for this video. I don't want to overwhelm everyone too much. But with the Zbrush orthographics, it's going to be a two-parter. So the first parter is how to set this up with Photoshop. And then after that, how to import it inside to Zbrush. So let's begin with the Zbrush and the Maya. So let me just open the two of them for 1 second. Very good. So I've got Maya open. So here, if I go inside of the counter browser and I put inside a biped, and with the biped, I'm just going to put like a basic human body. This one here. This is just for us to understand a little bit the scale for the human body. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a cube. And the cube, mind you, like just to make sure that we get the right measurements, I'm going to press T once. And in here, I'm just going to go with 200, 200, 200. I'm going to add an additional setting here called the height baseline. So this is by clicking on the hamburger menu. And in here, I'm just going to go -1. And what that's going to do... No, I thought for some reason it was going to do... Oh, there you go. Cool. So now the human being is sitting inside of that cube. And now that's going to be 200, 200, 200, right? So the way that scale works between Zbrush and Maya, Zbrush likes to do everything really, really tiny. Likes to do everything very, very, very small. And so, by the way that works is, say this sphere in here. If I put this inside of Maya and the export is to scale to 0 with these settings, let's do an experimentation just to see how big that is. So I'm going to go export. I'll say FBX. And I'm just going to go, let's put this inside of Dropbox. I'm just going to make a project called character, go, sure, let's go set of engineer in here. So I'm going to call that. And I'm going to call polysphere no scale. And see where that sits in that world, right? So I'm just going to go select it. Okay, file exported, and I'm going to put that in here. By the way, just as a heads up, the man, it is 180 tall. So if we go in here inside of create, measure tools, distance tool, and when I go from V to vertice, you can see here that's 200 units. So if we go in the front view with the 200 units and we activate the outliner so we can see those distance, and we will move that locator down, you can see how it is roughly that, right? 180 with that. Let's put the ball in. Let's go file, import. I'm gonna paste that location with the polysphere. And now we're gonna see how tiny that ball is. So again, if we had to measure that with a scale, it would be really tiny. So if we had a cube and the cube was essentially 2 times 2, it would exactly fit in there, right? So that's the main problem that happens with making characters is whenever you sculpt a character in Zbrush, then you put it inside of Maya, it's going to be like a little tiny little thing. Or not only is going to be like a very tiny little thing, it might be very big or vice versa, right? And you have to be very careful with that because the way that scale works in Maya, if we go back in here, the brushes are related to scale. So if you want to adjust the size, you can go a maximum of 1,000 units, which now if we look at this, interestingly enough, I just discovered that 1,000 is 4 times 4 units, like it's perhaps a radius of 2. But you can't go any bigger than that. So if you need to make big changes or adjustments, then you're gonna, like, even if you put the brush very, very big, it's not gonna fit in place. So what you can do, like as an experiment, and I hope this video doesn't go too long trying to make a point here, if you multiply that times 100, and you put, let's leave the offset as if, and now let's export that again. So we're gonna do this a few times. So we go export, go, let's type in here 100 and see what that looks like. We go, okay, export. I'm gonna delete this because not this polysphere is gonna have the same name. So it might get a little bit confusing. And now let's go again, import. And mind you, if it's got the same name, it's gonna replace it. So that's why I'm deleting it. So if I go import now, let's see, now the sphere, so if we go front view, is essentially encapsulating that 200 units, but it is not sitting on the bottom of the wireframe. So if we want that to be like sitting exactly on the top of the character, now what we can do is go back in here, go, all right, so what if we have a minus offset of minus 100, and then see if now that ball, or it might could be minus 15, and now see if that ball actually sits where it needs to go, right? It might be plus. Let's hope. Let's go now. Y offset. Go back in here. Go okay. Cool. Let's see if that exported. Go file, import, Y offset. And I think it's because I forgot to import Y offset. Did I make it too big? Oh no, it went up very far away. So if we look at this at top view, yeah. So I feel like I'm wasting your time now because you can see how there's a lot of experimentation with this. So if we go maybe minus 0.5, and now let's export that one more time. So let's go. This might be the last export that I do because it is a very lame setting. Like most of you must be thinking, oh, just tell me the number, that's it, right? But this is what I had to do to figure out myself the scale, how it works. Like just doing this with experimentation. So you can see how that's going downwards a little bit. So it has to be, I think it's going to be 100 units. So it has to be offset of 1. And now if we export that out, then it's going to be fine. Last time. Promise. Okay. So it's not doing it in the place that I want, but I can maybe pause the video and just give me a second. Actually, that was correct. I was just waiting for it to export. So if we go here with the settings now with our singular ball, it is these are the settings, right? We got scale to 100, offset to 1. So now if I import it in here, the character. So let's say now instead of exporting this, I export the cube and the human. They should be sitting exactly in the right place. So if I go now, file, export selection, and I use the same location that we had earlier. So we go character, reference, and we press export. And we go in here and we go now to import those fellas. Okay. Hopefully now, let's see where, it did not import the cube, right? But this is what's going to be interesting. Like, it exported that as a separate thing altogether. But now if we go down here, where it says export, it's going to have very similar settings to what we had with the ball earlier. So you see how this is 100? It's 100 point something. And with this, it's like 0, like it's trying to guesstimate. But if you put these to 1 and 100, it would be pretty much the same. So those are the settings that I recommend. When you do a character, try to have those settings. And maybe like the other thing that you can do is maybe import a box that's got that height and do a little bit of experimentation, right? Between the two when you import and export things. So that scale. And I'm going to stop the video and I'm going to do the continuation is going to be about proportions.